Chapter 8. Do I love, yes, do I love my job? The memorandum said, and I quote, "There is a serious need to review monitoring procedures given the returns that have been submitted over the last month. Some members of staff have shown complete disregard for the A6 and O45 forms, which are of completely essential importance if the hotel is to respond to the new markets which are developing for catering and hotel provision within the economy. Additionally, those forms that have been filled in give little useful information, as staff members have shown little or no discretion in the completion of said forms. As a result, it is with some regret that I have called a full flight session for the whole morning of the blah-de-blah-de-blah. So pop goes my free time, and there's no way I can get overtime for a flight session. It's just part of the system. I can claim time off in lieu for the hours in attendance, but so what? That doesn't replace lost sleep, does it? Not that I do lose any sleep. So, all the customer interface staff, that's what we're called now if we say anything to the guests as part of our job, and that includes me. We're sitting in the conference room, it used to be the lounge, waiting for Mr. Just Call Me Al Butterthwaite to arrive. I was sitting next to Kelly, one of the girls on reception. She was obviously bored, because she had been painting her nails black and sighing as if she had asthma.
"What's all this about, Ted? You probably know everything around here."
"I'm only the night man, I don't know anything. All I know is that these forms are a waste of time, for me anyway. I mean, some of the guests don't like to say what they're going to be getting up to outside the room, do they? I mean, they could be... Sorry, I don't want to, It's what they call an invasion of privacy."
"You're completely right there. That stupid O45 is the most bloody ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. Never got told about that on the YTS. Mind you, never got told about anything else either. Anyway, where is that stupid Butter Mountain anyway?"
There was no sign of him. At the end of the room, though, there were a couple of gramophone speakers and a television. We were all waiting for something. Then the music started. It was national anthem music, but from one of those hot countries that have fast national anthems. That lasted a few minutes while we looked at each other in not yet astonishment. Then the music stopped, and a voice came over the speakers.
"Hotel manager and regional company representative, Mr. Alan Al Butterthwaite."
Then the TV came on, and there was Mr. Butter sitting in one of the hotel rooms in an armchair. The camera came in closer to Mr. Butter's face. Kelly turned to me with an expression Julius Caesar might have had on his face just after Brutus got him.
"Hi," said Mr. Butter. "Yes, I know you were all probably wondering why Al Butterthwaite is addressing you through the medium of closed-circuit television, and it's a good question. Before I answer, let me ask you a question."
He pointed his finger towards us, saying,
"And believe me, it's a question I should ask myself every day. Do I love my job?"
And here he changed his voice.
Do I love my job? Now, that is a question we all need to ask ourselves daily. It's like washing, cleaning your teeth or tying a shoelace. It's part of everyday life, and it's something we've all got to do every day. Now, every day, I say to you, every day.
Kelly looked at me again. Was it fear this time?
"It's something I started asking myself about 10 years ago, and do you know what? Do you know, friends and fellow Eagle workers, do you know what that means to me? Well, I'll tell you. My life has changed. My life has changed. From the moment I took this question into my life, from that moment, my life changed. Let me tell you, so will yours."
Then the telly clicked off, and Mr. Butter melted away.
"Oh, gods, I feel ashamed," said Kelly next to me.
She giggled and put her hand over her mouth. There was a crackling noise, and a voice came over the speakers again.
Mr. Alan Butterthwaite will be with you in person to share with you his...
But the national anthem that was playing again drowned out the words. I could hear a few more people trying to contain their laughter with hands across their mouths. To tell the truth, I was feeling a bit three sails to sunset myself. The national anthem music got louder, and a voice blurted out, "Mr. Alan Butterthwaite." Mr. Butter made his entrance, his hands above his head like Pompey the Great on his third triumphal entrance to Rome. I noticed he's changed his clothes. Now he was in a very light suit with a green, and I had to look twice, shirt on. The bright red tie he wore added to the colourful effect he must have been planning for weeks.
Oh God, and there's me telling me mother to take a skirt back to Mark's because it was too bright for a woman of 75. God, I feel ashamed.
Kelly turned to me with her hand over her gaping mouth.
What in heaven's name and by our blessed Virgin Mary is going on?
She said. I've no idea, I said. Maybe he'll tell us now.
Yeah, great, yeah, Mr. Butter was saying. Right, that's what I wanted to hear. That's the sound of serious thinking. That's the sound that tells me things will get better. That things can only improve. And that we're all, yes, all, going to put our tribes out for the eagle. Is that right?
There was not a single answer from anyone in the room.
Is that right?
No one said anything. Kelly turned to me again. I think she was a bit embarrassed.
Is that right? I'm asking you, is that right?
Silence. Now, listen to me, you lot. We're in this together, and I know you won't let me down. I'm talking to you one-on-one. This is Al Butterthwaite talking to you here. I know we're on the verge of big things here. I know that we can move things. Ask yourself daily, do I love my job? And when you start to answer that question, when you start to answer, oh yes I do, then you're on the way. Then the eagle is on the way, and the whole region is on the way, and the whole chain is on the way. Turn to your fellow worker and say to him, do you love your job? You ask your fellow workers that question, and when the answer is, I repeat, when the answer is yes, oh yes, well then we're on our way. We're all on our way. Kelly whispered something about Mr. Butter being on the way himself. Now, do I have your backing? Are we on the way? Are we going to pull together? Now everyone was looking at the floor. I hoped to God he wasn't going to turn to me and say something like, Ted, isn't it time you said a few words? I hoped and I prayed. I'm asking you all. It's a simple question. Can I have a few answers? That's all I want. But still, nobody said anything. I'm talking to you, you shower. For God's sake, what kind of shits are you? Right, that's it, I've had enough. Mr. Butterthwaite got down from the platform, and I could hear him saying, progressive motivational techniques gonna make no difference to this shower of shits, for fuck's sake. Then, as he passed me, he turned and said, you, outside, now. How come it was always me? When I got outside, Mr. Butter was breathing like a horse that had just finished the Grand National. And I should know, having bunked in often enough as a kid. Mind you, there wasn't much steam coming from him. I got the impression he wasn't very happy. Okay, Ted, it's time to get a few things out in the open. I mean, I just can't accept it. Simple as that, do you understand? Do you hear me, okay? Sorry, Mr. Butterthwaite, I'm not quite with you on this. You'll have to let me know, I don't quite grasp. Honestly, I was frightened. Don't quite grasp. Not quite with you on this. Oh no, Ted, you don't understand a thing, do you? You've no idea, have you? You can't understand an A6 or an 045, can you? It's all a trifle too hard for you, isn't it?
Or is it? Do I make myself clear, or do I have to show you? Well, I'm going to take that silence as an affirmative, meaning yes, so don't give me that fucking stupid expression. I know you're not a fucking, excuse the language, but the circumstances justify it, a fucking idiot. Because I see you reading those bloody Greek and Roman things all the time. Oh yes, don't think your activities go unnoticed on nights. Well, it's clear, it's going to have to be spelled out for you. I was genuinely troubled by all this. I couldn't think what it could be. After all, I'd done everything as he'd wanted it done, all the forms and that. Look at this then, Julius Caesar. Look at the state of these 045s for the periods 7th to the 11th of the previous, and 8th to the 17th of this month. Jesus Christ. Here, just one example. Out-of-room activities. Bonking and eating dead rats behind public conveniences. What the fuck? Can you explain that one? Or should I read you the whole lot? Well, I said, and something was beginning to surface, like when you think you've flushed a certain thing away and it just comes back again. So who was the customer? Guest stroke client, I think you mean, don't you? Well, I can tell you that. Certain John Smith from London, who puts down his occupation as Cockney bonker. Well, no, the thing is, Mr. Butter, you see, when he said that he could fill it in himself and it was late and I couldn't see anything wrong with it, so I just gave it to him and he handed it back to me later, so I just accepted it, you know what I mean? The name is Butterthwaite, by the way, Ted. Or should I call you Edward Gibbon, is it? The great historian? So, you gave it to him and then allowed an official hotel document to be filled in by a customer stroke client. I mean, what kind of a fucking business is it that you think I own then? But I didn't think you owned the... Shut up! Shareholder. Alright, I'm a bloody shareholder. That okay for you, Julius the Mighty Caesar? Here's another one. Listen to this. Hang on, let me find it. I'm sorry, Mr. Butterthwaite. Who did this one then? I wanted to have a defence ready. Oh, this is that Jeff Johnson chap who seems to spend 3 or 4 nights a week here. I mean, listen to this, for God and heaven's sake. Purpose of visit, and I'm sorry, Ted, I will have to quote this. Purpose of visit, manual stimulation of arousable external organs at or below waist level. For God's sake, what is going on? As they say at football matches, the atmosphere was electric and you could have heard a pin drop. But a little worm inside me was doing its utmost to make me laugh. All I could do was cough to disguise my feelings. Well, let me tell you one thing. And remember, you're only the bloody night man, no matter how many fancy books you read. Let me tell you this. These are all sackable offences. Do you understand that? Sackable offences. No joke. And that means you could still be without a job. I had to cough again because I still wanted to laugh. I wonder, now that I think of it again, if it's possible to get the sack without losing your job. Are you clear then? Do we have liftoff from this situation? Or are we talking absolute relationships, personnel-wise? Don't look at me like that. What on earth are you coughing for? Pull yourself together, you little wanker. Right. Enough said. Improvements or dismissal. Take your pick. You've got the choice. It's in your hands now. Well, you know what I mean. After he went away, I stopped coughing because I didn't really want to laugh. After all, he was only doing his job. I realised that Jeff and John Smith had played me for a fool when I let them get on with their forms. I couldn't think of any way to get around the 045. No way. And so I just left it to them. Now things were different. So, that's it, my young pony. No question about it. We'll have to stop taking the piss in case our man Ted loses his only source of income, and we lose our only ally in this godforsaken world. I can tell you now, Ted, it's looking grim for the likes of me. What with one thing and the other. So, what do you reckon of my old cockney bonker then? The first thing I had done when I saw Jeff was to tell him. Surprisingly enough, John Smith was at the Eagle as well, so it was a kind of conference. Well, I'm no saint, I agree with you, like. But we've got to support our fella Ted, haven't we? But we've still got a duty, as honourable Christian gentlemen of a certain persuasion, to clear all this shit out of the bloody system. Sometimes I jelly deal like a friggin' dickhead. I mean, this guy Butterball, he's a grade A, J. Arthur, how's your father? I mean, we got to pull some scam on this silly cunt, haven't we? At that point, I was stirring one of the 3 cups of coffee, and I have to admit, my heart leapt at that, because I couldn't see myself sticking to the 045 and A6 regime, now that there's a new one. It's a P3. Friggin' P3 is supposed to find out ethnicity. Now they have to put down where they were born, and what nationality their parents were, and what they consider is their human/ethnic grouping, race-wise. Some write English. Some occasional black person will put Ethiopian or Somali. Once, one of them wrote Corsico Negrodio, meaning he was half black, half Martian or something out of Star Trek. All of this had to be done for every new customer. I even had one who must have been a mate of old Harry's, because when he was asked what his ethnic group was, he said, well, he wasn't a nigger or a yid, so I had to put him down as an Aryan. In other words, I was in serious trouble with this business, and my mind was beginning to feel a certain amount of pain as a result. When I gave Jeff his coffee, he spat the stuff out and said, ugh, what kind of poison is this you give me? Don't mind the occasional accidental sugar, but this is like a diabetic's blood. What have you done, Ted? Sorry, I said. It was genuinely apologetic, because I'd forgotten that Jeff didn't take sugar. But hold on there, you 2 guys. I think I have a solution to the problem of excessive shite from our friend Butterbeans. Listen, how about this? Let's poison him. Let's poison the bugger. I can get hold of an anaesthetic that they use when they castrate horses. If that doesn't sort the bastard out, nothing will. Once we poison him, we bury him in cement and fling his body into the Mersey, and no one will be any the worse for it. Who'd miss him? Is he married? Anyway, his wife and kids will get life insurance. Poison Mr. Butter? Come on, Jeff, I was saying to myself. This isn't on. I couldn't believe my ears. I didn't realise Jeff had such tendencies. It was a bit shocking, to say the least, and both me and John Smith must have looked like a pair of statues. We were struck motionless by the audacity of the idea, as it would say in Plutarch or one of those other old Greek writers. The idea was straight out of ancient Rome. Sulla would have loved this one. Murder, so cold and callous, it didn't bear thinking about. Ah, had you fooled there, didn't I, eh? Thought I really meant it, didn't you? Ah. I couldn't go for poisoning. Not in cold blood. Well, what about a scam like the Devlin business, then? You don't know the story, do you, John? Thing is, I got shanghaied into joining this little scheme of Ted's. Know what I mean? I was supposed to be a friggin' police officer, a CID man, you know. Anyway, we were investigating what was going on in the way of illegal nookie, like. And this bloody bugger, the manager, what was his name? Devlin, I said. That's right. He was trying to put an unlawful leg over the black girl, Claudia, giving her grade A hassle in the touching up and dirty conversation stuff scene. Anyway, we set the bastard up courtesy of Ted here. That Devlin bloke and that creepy old bastard Harry. Well, they kind of resigned. So we owe Ted anyway, right? Well, Well, the thing about this is, if it happened a second time, people would get suspicious. So we take a different route.